What's up, everybody? We're here to go over UFC Saudi Arabia. Robert Whittaker taking on Chimaev. But real quick, I'm going to talk about the betting results in the last card. Um, Parlays didn't do good because just Dustin Jacoby killed them all. But I mean, I don't really care too much about those. I make all my money on single plays and two fight parlays or whatever. But I had a two fight parlay that was Bruno Ferreira and Carlos Pratis, and that was a plus 123. That play hit. I had a play on Daniel Marcos at minus 140. That hit. I had a play on Taylor Lapilus. That hit. And I had, like I said, I had a play on Dustin Jacoby that didn't hit. And then I had a small $100 play, plus money play on Jared Cannonier that didn't hit. So didn't lose any money. If Jacoby had won, I'd have came out with a little bit more profit. But, I was able to make some money, live betting and stuff throughout the card too. So that helped out a lot. But, yeah, I was a little disappointed. Dustin Jacoby is one of my more confident picks, on the card, and just kind of threw it away. But I honestly, man, I was kind of hoping that Reyes might like retire or something, soon, because I feel like he won that fight, he caught Jacoby, and maybe he's gonna go on to possibly get knocked out again a few more times, and it's I don't know. I just don't want that to happen for him because I was always a big fan of his back in the day, and I was really surprised, though. He looked great, come out there swinging and put Justin Jacoby down. So good for him, man. But what else? Please like and subscribe, guys. It'll help me out a lot. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and give out each of my picks for all the fights. And then at the end of the video, I give out my bets for free. I don't charge people money for bets. I'm just doing this basically to help people, try to help people make money, and I would hope people would do the same for me. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go to my social medias. Highkick_fight picks is Instagram and TikTok. And there's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. Easy to find, and feel free to post anything you want in there, MMA related, your bets. I want to see everybody's stuff. I like to bounce ideas off of people. And, there's a lot of people, man, that will message me on Instagram. You can... I don't know. I mean, I guess how you going to ask? You don't all know each other, but I mean, like I always take my time to talk to everybody, and I'll bullshit with you and everything, and I mean, there's been times where guys are like, talking to me about betting or whatever, and I tell people all the time, it's not hard to make money betting on fights. If I was, I guess what happened, years ago, I won like 10 grand, over the course of like two events or three events or something like that. And, ever since then, I've kind of like, it's easy for me to pick, three fighters and put $100 parlay in and land, win $100 or whatever, but, that's just, it got to the point now where it's like, oh, that doesn't feel like it's good enough for me. I want to make 1,000, whatever. And that sometimes bites me in the ass, but, either way, I mean, it's I've given people parlays when they message me and stuff. They're like, okay, give me your three picks or whatever, and I'll do it. And help them win some money or whatever. Which it's not hard, man. You guys know what you're doing. It's just we all chase that big paycheck. So a lot of the times those big parlays we put in end up biting us in the ass and whatever. But hey, it's a game, man, and everybody wants to get rich. So and real quick, if you're looking for a good sports book, guys, if you want to help me out, if you enjoy my channel and you want to help me out, if you go down to the comments and use my link for Bet Us, and it'll get you 125% match on your first three deposits and 10% gambler's insurance. And obviously, if you use the code, you gotta roll your money over, bet it a few times before you can pull your money out. But it would help me out a lot, if y'all did, because that's the only way I ever get paid for advertising for them. They don't just pay you to advertise. If I bring customers on, they'll pay me like $100 per customer or whatever. But yeah, if you want to help me out, you could do that. Go over, make the minimum deposit, and make you a parlay or something. And if you don't enjoy the book, don't use it anymore. That's what I do. Is I go through and I use all the books online. I'll take advantage of all their all their bonuses and everything like that. Turn my money over, pull it off, and go put it on one of the books that I use, normally if I don't like it. So, but yeah, thank you guys for being here, man. I appreciate you guys. And let's see what we got here. We lost Shara Magomedov versus Ihor Poteria, and then Said Nurmagomedov versus Montel Jackson. Jackson's fighting Farid Basharat now, so a lot different fight for him. I don't know if he would have been able to beat Said Nurmagomedov either, but what else? I think that's it, man. Let's get into this card, guys. First up, we got Long Xiao taking on Cheng Ho Lee. And Long is 26 years old. He is 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. He is 26. Oh, sorry, I already said that. He is 26-8. And this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a plus 100 underdog. Money might have came in. Which way? I don't know what direction the line's going right now on this. But he has 4 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission. Never been submitted, but has been knocked out 3 times. He was on a very long win streak up until his shot on the Contender Series a few years ago, where he lost a decision to Christian Quinones. And since then, he's won 4 straight, 2 of which were on the road to UFC. He's very experienced, big record for a young guy. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and he's actually 4 years younger than his opponent, with that has a much smaller record. So, but he does seem to be well-rounded. Lots of wins by armbar, good submission defense. He beat a 13-1 fighter last time out. He's a grinder, and he's there throughout the whole fight, man. Good scrambles on the ground, great cardio, good sprawls. His first fight on the road to UFC was kind of impressive just because, and going back and watching the tape, a lot of his fights were like this, but, he fought a really good grappler, and he was able to stop all the submissions and stuff a lot of the takedowns and end up getting the win. And it was a very close fight, though, but, it was obviously a very tough opponent that he was taking on, with his grappling, But yeah, most of his fights end up being like that. A lot of his fights are him, fighting the takedowns and whatever, and just kind of doing damage in between. And so he does appear to be pretty well rounded. Hasn't been finished since 2019. Needs to throw more jabs. Does tend to throw a lot of big shots. Throws nice uppercuts. And like I said, he's used to his opponents constantly shooting on him and trying to keep him down, which is probably what his opponent in this fight's going to do as well, because. His opponent likes to fancy himself a Korean, Khabib. That's what he says about himself. So I assume this fight's going to be a lot of long trying to stuff takedowns. And Cheng Ho Lee is 30 years old. He is 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. He is 9-1, and this is going to be his UFC debut. Minus 120 favorite, 4 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, never been finished. Up until his last 2 fights, he had never really fought anyone with any experience or good records at all. And he went 3-2 as an amateur, so a little bit more experience than his record indicates. And honestly, the guys that he fought on the road to UFC are a little bit questionable as well. At least one of them, anyway. He throws good front kicks and head kicks from both sides. Known for his grappling, good at flowing from position to position, good at passing guard, nasty elbows and ground and pound. And this is a hard fight to pick, being that Long is used to his opponents doing what Lee does. And we did see Lee have a little bit of trouble in the first round of his the first 2 rounds of his last fight before he ended up getting the win. Got out-grappled himself, taken down, reversed quite a bit. So, maybe he's not the Korean Khabib like he says, if he was kind of, outmatched the first 2 rounds of his last fight. But, yeah, he kept getting reversed, and his opponent was ended up on top. And so I'm not sold on him being, all that great of a wrestler. He also lost to a 3-0 fighter just a few fights ago, so that's not a good look. Could be close, man, and I went back and forth with myself on this, but I'm going to be taking the value, on the underdog and the experience on the side of Long to win this fight by decision. I think he's going to make it a tough fight. Stuff those takedowns like he normally does. Maybe just keep getting back to his feet like he normally does when he gets down, and land shots in between, and maybe take over in the later 2 rounds. Next up, we got Farid Basharat taking on Montel Jackson. This is a really good fight, man. Good matchmaking. And Farid is 26 years old. He is 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. He is 12-0 and 3-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 190 favorite. And this is good, man. This is make no mistake, man. Jackson is a tough guy. He's very good, and he's very big for the weight class. Farid has 1 win by knockout, 6 wins by submission. The Basharat brothers are good everywhere, good boxing and calf kicks, but their biggest strength is their wrestling and their submissions. Great singles and doubles and trips, heavy top pressure. He's had some tough fights, man. Just beat Taylor Lapilus, who's a very tough guy. He's very fast, clean, technical striking, good front kicks, great at transitioning to the back. Doesn't typically do a lot of damage, on the feet. Usually just wins based on lots of control time and getting the dominant positions on the ground and the takedowns. I could definitely see a scenario in the future where someone is busting him up with elbows and knees in between takedowns and he loses a decision. Don't know if this will be that fight at all, but it's possible. He has great cardio, pushes a super tough pace, great kicks all around, uses his jab well, puts out a lot of volume. He fights very smart. He knows how to edge out the rounds. And he shows 58% striking accuracy with 58% striking defense and 42% takedown accuracy with 83% takedown defense. Averages just under 4 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.47 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.44. He's taking on Montel Jackson. He is 32 years old, 5'10", with a 75.5-inch reach. He is 13-2 and 7-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 165 underdog. 7 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He's never been finished. His best win so far has been over Julio Arce. And I'll admit, he has lost to good wrestlers in the past. He lost to Ricky Simone back in 2020. He lost to Brett Johns. But he's a very, very good fighter, man. Huge for the weight class, 4.5-inch reach advantage. Has the power advantage for sure on the feet. Another unique thing that he brings to the table in this matchup is his just giant hands that he has, man. His hands are like the size of Francis Ngannou's. And then due to that, he has really strong wrist control, which helps him, stuff the takedowns. And he could probably learn a lot from watching what Lapilus did, in the first round against Basharat and in the last fight. And possibly, if he can learn from that, he can do a little bit better job. But he fights southpaw, great straight left hand. Honestly, a lot of his wins have been over guys who didn't really have success in the UFC, aside from Julio Arce. And if you're going to take Jackson to win, it's by knockout, I would say. The skills, most of the advantages and the skill sets are going to go to the side of Basharat here, outside of the reach and the power advantage on the feet. Jackson is dangerous, man. I want him to win this fight. Just not sure the takedown defense is going to hold up against Basharat. Because I do consider Basharat, a better, wrestler, grappler than, Brett Johns. So, where was I at? Yeah, so he shows 54% striking accuracy with 64% striking defense, 71% takedown accuracy with 69% takedown defense, averages 1.64 knockdowns per fight, and 3.42 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 3.36 strikes per minute while absorbing 1.41. So doesn't get hit a lot. He's good at using his reach and staying at range. I'm taking Basharat to win this fight by decision. I was going to say I was rooting for Jackson, but I've got money tied up in it, so can't root for him. But next up, we got Abu Azaitar taking on Denis Tiuliulan. And Azaitar is 38 years old. He is 5'9" with a 76-inch reach. He is 14-4-1 and 1-2 in the UFC. And he's a plus 105 underdog. 7 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Never been submitted, but has been knocked out twice. And this is interesting because the line actually flipped, since the other day. Azaitar was the favorite a few days ago, and the line flipped, and now Tiuliulan's a favorite, which I really don't understand. He is tough, though. But, I mean, both these guys have looked like shit recently. Abu is small for the weight class. If he was smart, he would try to use wrestling in this fight. That's the biggest weakness that Tiuliulan has is his wrestling and takedown defense. Abu's kind of short and stocky, for the middleweight, division. Big power, great kickboxing. He was a K1 champion. He has very fast hands, throws long combinations. Losing to Cedricus Dumas wasn't a very good look for him. While I'm a fan of Dumas, it seems like he's still rounding out parts of his game. And that being said, Abu Azaitar is almost 40, and he's basically as complete as he's going to get. His takedown defense didn't look good in the first round, but he was able to keep it on the feet the rest of the fight. And it was a better performance. He was out for a long time, and he came back and got knocked out by Marc-Andre Barriault. kind of got out cardioed, and everything, and I feel like he's maybe still getting back into the swing of things, after all that time off. At least he went to decision, in his last fight, and he was looking better. He had his moments. I think he dropped Dumas in the first round. Um, so yeah, I mean, maybe he's just getting back in the swing of things. He'll probably look better, than his last two fights in this fight. Um, where was that? Now this is I think azaitar is going to be, this is kind of like him fighting at home here. He's going to have a lot of fans here. Everybody's going to be rooting for him. They want him to win this fight. He's favored on Tapology. Great calf kicks, terrible takedown defense. Wasn't really able to make his way back to his feet in his last fight once he was down. He may have the more technical striking out of these two, coming from a kickboxing background. I would say somebody's probably getting knocked out in this fight. Azaitar loads up on a lot of his shots. He puts everything on his shots. He's going to have to get in close in this fight on the feet. He's the short guy, and he can't leave a lot of space like he was doing in his last fight. And he, like I said, he'd look better in his last fight, cardio-wise especially. And he's taking on Denis Tiuliulan. He is 36 years old. He is 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. He is 11-9 and 1-4 in the UFC. He's a -120 favorite. 9 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. Most of his losses have been by finish. He's the only Russian that I say he's the only Russian that can't wrestle. Magomedov can't really wrestle either. but he's a brawler, man. Big power. He thrives in nasty, ugly fights. Making it sloppy. He's been fighting the tougher competition out of these two. I'll give him that. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Most of the skill advantages are going to be going, to azaitar, though, in my opinion. But I could see a scenario where Tiuliulan takes over in the third round and gets a late finish or something if azaitar gets tired or lands a big shot. But to keep it simple, I think azaitar has looked better. And I guess Tiuliulan has been finished in all his losses in the UFC. So I'm going to go with azaitar, take it to win by knockout. But I mean, I was going to stay away from this fight money wise, but I mean, I do like azaitar as a plus money underdog. So I put a little something on him. Not a lot, just a small play to win. Next up, we got Magomed Gadzhiyasulov taking on Britson Ribeiro. Oh yeah, I had somebody comment on my last video, call me an idiot because I keep saying, I keep calling Tyra Tiara. I keep calling him that. I've always done it. I read it wrong the first time that I ever saw him, and and I just can't break the habit of doing that. I know it's not Tiara, it's Tyra or something like that. But I don't know, man. I'm more worried about getting people my picks and my bets than pronouncing people's names right. For some reason, I'm a lot better at pronouncing Russian names than I am at some other stuff. But either way, guy was disrespectful, man. I hate people that are disrespectful. I try to be respectful with everybody. You can call me an idiot on my video, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, you're right, man. Whatever. I said it wrong, but there are a lot of people that are. I don't get that too much, man. It doesn't happen a lot. Most of you guys are super cool, and you're even respectful to each other in the comments. So I appreciate that. There are some people that'll watch your channel and talk shit about everything you do and say, but they're watching it every week. So what the fuck, Either way, back to the fights. Magomed Gadzhiyasulov is 30 years old. He is 6'2" with a 75.5-inch reach. He is 8-0. This is going to be his UFC debut. -450 favorite, 4 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Went 10-3 as an amateur. Hasn't fought a lot of tough competition at all, until his last 2 fights, really, which is probably why those went to a decision while most of his other wins were by finish. He's fighting a tough guy here, man, and everyone seems to be very high on Magomed. Great striking, very fast, great counter striking, really good kicks for a big guy. Mixes his attacks up very well, to all 3 levels, head, body, leg. Good at using his range and managing distance, nice jumping and spinning attacks, good side kicks, and everyone, supposedly he can wrestle pretty good too, so it's probably the real deal. This will be his toughest fight yet. The guy he fought in the Contender Series really didn't have anything for him. He was, just way more skilled than that guy. So this will be an interesting matchup. He's taking on Britson Ribeiro. He is 27 years old. He is 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. He is 15-6 and 0-1 in the UFC. He's a +350 underdog. 9 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. Super tough, dangerous submissions, has the reach advantage. and has the advantage, with his jiu-jitsu as well on the ground. He's more experienced. He's going to have a 5.5 inch reach advantage and throws some really nice long straight shots. He beat an 11-0 guy on the Contender Series. He was doing pretty good in his debut before he got caught with that punch. Very fast, very accurate, very good at using his reach. Fights very aggressive. And I think he's going to be around a while, man. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. He's gotten a couple of unlucky, opponent matchups his first few fights in the UFC. But, I think, he can either fight safe and use his reach or possibly keep the fight in the clinch and slow down Magomed. Um, or try to act wild like he usually does and try to get a big knockout. And it's always possible, but the more well-rounded striking skills go to Magomed, but Ribeiro may have a power advantage. I'm going to pick Magomed to win this fight, but you never know. I mean, he's never fought anyone as good as Ribeiro. I'm picking Magomed to win by a knockout round one. Scary fight to bet on with these big guys, though, man. Anything can happen. Next up, we got fakhretdinov taking on Nicholas Dalby. And this is one that, I posted this one, and everybody's still going with fakhretdinov, and I understand why. But, man, going against Nicholas Dalby has not been working out good for me, guys. So there's going to be – I'm probably just going to end up having to make, like, a reverse parlay with him on it just in case, because I'm so tired of freaking Dalby proving me wrong, man. He's done it several times now. And fakhretdinov is 32 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He is 22-2-1 and 3-0-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 265 favorite. And I thought this dude was like the real deal. And last time out, it was close, man. He almost got finished in the third round. So he arguably could have lost that fight. The second round was pretty close, and the third round was like a 10-8. His cardio looked like shit, and I guess it was from all the body shots that Oleski was hitting him with. And guess what? One of Dalby's best weapon is his cardio. So that's a worry. Obviously Renat has good wrestling, dangerous submissions, 11 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. Never been finished, pushes a real tough pace, but we saw that if you can start stuffing those takedowns, he will tire. So he's super dangerous. Especially early. He hits very hard, very strong with his body lock. Great takedowns all the way around. He does throw everything into his shots as well, which is probably part of the reason he gets tired late in the fight. Likes to throw like the overhand to a backhand a lot, pretty wild stuff. Not the prettiest striking at all, but he hits very hard. He'll have to get an early finish here, or really win the first 2 rounds, because there's no doubt that Dalby's going to be fresh in the third round if it gets there. Renat may try and pace himself, more in this fight after the last one. I do think that Dalby is, do I think Dalby is as good as Zaleski dos Santos? I mean, I don't know, not really, but maybe, but it is a worry here, man, that Dalby could really, prove us all wrong. And if he does, I'll be, excited for him, honestly, because if he does beat this guy, he probably deserves to be up there towards the top. He shows 56% striking accuracy with 53% striking defense. 46% takedown accuracy with 100% takedown defense, averages 1 knockdown per fight and 4.25 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.05 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.16. He's taking on Nicholas Dalby. He is 39 years old. He is 5'11 with a 74.5-inch reach. He is 23-4-1 and 7-3-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 225 underdog. Looking at this guy's record, he's had a really good career. He hasn't lost a lot. He's only lost to really tough guys. So, you got it. When you look at his record, you start taking him a little bit more seriously. 7 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. He's never been finished, and that's something that worries me as well. He's a great fighter, great conditioning. Coming off the best win of his career. He has a win over the guy that Renat just went to a draw with as well. He will have a half-inch reach advantage, and quite frankly, like I said, going against him hasn't been working out well for me the past few fights. So he just beat an undefeated fighter, and he did it by finish, which is a big deal for him. Good footwork. He needs to do what he did in his last fight and be the one pushing forward, and we know he's not going to get tired. He's probably the more technical striker out of these two, while Renat has the power advantage. But Dalby's a big guy, good wrist control, very well rounded, nasty elbows in the clinch and knees in close. If he does exactly what he did in his last fight, he could possibly win this fight, no doubt. He shows 44% striking accuracy with 53% striking defense, 31% takedown accuracy with 60% takedown defense. He averages 1.11 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.3 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.43. And man, like I said, it's tough for me to go against Dalby, especially after his last performance. I don't doubt that Renat's going to come out and get some takedowns early and probably have a really good first round, but I don't know if he can keep up with Dalby. But I mean, I'm still going to go with Renat. Dalby has kind of a crappy percentage on his takedown defense, so I'm still going to go with Renat. I'm taking a win by, he mostly wins by finish, so um, I guess I'll take Renat to win by a submission round two. That he would be the first person to finish Dalby, so it's a tall task ahead of him there. Next up, we got Muin Gafurov taking on Kang. And Gafurov is 28 years old. He is 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 18-6 and 0-2 in the UFC, and he's a minus 115. And this guy lost his fight in the Contender Series, then lost his 2 fights in the UFC. So I mean, why? I don't understand what's going on with. I mean, obviously they see something in this guy for him to still be here. But he has been fighting guys that he has no business to being in there with. Honestly, he has 10 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out, but was submitted once in his last fight. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of skills so far that lead me to believe he's got this. I mean, he tends to rush forward and just throw hooks and put his head down and just swing, and there's nothing technical about it. He ran straight forward and put his head in a choke last time out. He may have a power advantage. He does tend to push a tough pace, but skill wise, I think he's outmatched in this fight. He loads up on all of his shots, and you can see them coming from a mile away. And I guess his best hope would be that Kang gets tired and he gets a late finish. But there's Kang has been in there with some legit competition. And Gafurov really hasn't looked all that great. So. But he's taking on Kang. He is 36 years old. He is 5'9" with a 73-inch reach. He is 19-10 and 8-4 in the UFC, and he's a minus 105. 2 wins by knockout, 12 wins by submission. He's gonna have a 5-inch reach advantage. He throws the straighter, more accurate punches. He has the better technique on all of his stuff. He's probably the better grappler as well, and he's good at using his range and keeping guys at the end of his punches. He throws the better kicks. I could see him choking out Gafurov just like his Gafurov's last opponent did. Kang has great counter striking. Really good at not overcommitting and getting off balance. Those are great jab, great grappling. Dangerous submissions, really nice chokes. He's got long arms, and he's very good at staying out of the way of those wide looping shots and coming down the middle with his cleaner shots. Kang shows 48% striking accuracy with 56% striking defense, 57% takedown accuracy with 68% takedown defense. Averages almost 2 takedowns per fight. And he lands on average 3.35 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.33. I'm going to take Kang to win this fight, man. I'm taking a win by submission, round 2. And I like the price as well. So next up, we got haqparast taking on Jared Gordon. And Nazarat is 28 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. He is 16-5 and 8-4 in the UFC, and he's a minus 250 favorite. 10 wins by knockout and no wins by submission. He's on a great run right now. Really good kickboxing, those great long combinations, tons of volume. And up until his last fight, he hadn't had a finish in a really long time. He knocked out Jamie Malarkey last time out. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He uses his jab very well. He'll triple his jab up at times. Very fast hands. Very good at setting up his kicks and using his feints to set up his strikes. Fights southpaw mostly, but we saw in the Quinones fight he can fight from either stance as well. He had a lot of leg kicks in that fight. Hopefully he's worked on checking those. Really good at creating angles. Great striking defense. Doesn't throw a lot of single shots. Everything's 2, 3, 4-punch combinations. Goes to the body a lot. Pushes a really tough pace. Great cardio. Really good at coming over the top with his big left hand. He's younger. He's still only 28. He's probably going to look even better than he did last time. He's on a good run right now, and he's coming off like I said, the first knockout win he's had in a long time. He shows 45% striking accuracy with 64% striking defense, 20% takedown accuracy with 79% takedown defense, and he lands on average 5.78 strikes per minute while absorbing 5.25. And he's taking on Jared Gordon. He is 35 years old, 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. He is 20-6, 26-1 and 8-5-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 210 underdog. 7 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. Most of his losses have been by knockout, but he's only lost to really tough guys. And quite honestly, Jared has looked better recently than he ever has. You know, he got robbed in the Paddy Pimblett fight. He was looking good against Bobby Green before the clash of heads, and he just knocked out Mark Madsen. So he does have decent wrestling. He would be smart to try and use it in this fight. You know, his boxing has looked good as well. I just don't think it would be smart for him to risk getting knocked out again on the feet with Nasrat. You know, Nasrat's quite a bit better striker than him, I would say. His last fight was really impressive because he took everything Madsen was throwing at him and stayed calm and just worked his wrist control and got his combinations going. You know, used his dirty boxing in the clinch and got the finish. Nasty uppercut. And his cardio's looked really good. Jared is well-rounded, man, and hasn't really been trying to use his wrestling much lately. He used a little bit in the Pimblett fight. But if this fight is going to play out on the feet, I would really have to edge out, Nasrat. But Gordon usually does come in, with good game plan, so it's possible he may use his wrestling. He shows 58% striking accuracy with 58% striking defense, 40% takedown accuracy with 63% takedown defense, and he averages just under 2 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 5.39 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.40. And I'm going to go with Nasrat to win this fight. He has pretty good takedown defense as well, as the superior striking. I'll take him to win by knockout round 2. Next up, we got Xiao Magomedov taking on Joelton Lutterbach. And Magomedov is 30 years old. He is 6'2" with a 73-inch reach. He is 12-0 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 215 favorite. So I was really excited when this guy was coming into the UFC because he's a beast when it comes to the striking. He's one of the best Muay Thai strikers in the world, and I assumed that with him being from Russia, he would be able to wrestle and have good takedown defense, but that wasn't the case. But he did do a good job of doing damage off of his back, constantly throwing elbows and stuff like that. But being taken down by Bruno Silva isn't really a good look because he's not a wrestler. He has 10 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. He went 18-2 as a K1 kickboxer. Guy's an amazing striker, throws a wide variety of strikes, very skilled, fights well in the clinch, has nasty elbows in close, great kicks to all levels. And you could tell his kicks have a lot of power on them, when he throws them. There's not a lot of wind up or anything, but you can just hear it, and he also kicks a lot with his lead leg, and they come very fast. He's very technical and creative, and even though he has one eye, he's very accurate. He's had a lot of first-round finishes, but has been to a decision a few times, so the cardio holds up. And he's fought some tough guys, throws a ton of kicks. He just whips them out there, man, and chops guys down. He throws more kicks than he does punches, and he will double up his calf kicks at times, like a jab. Always beats up the inside and outside of his opponent's legs, throws good shots even when he's backing away, uses good side kicks. He's very good, has great footwork. You can watch the tape on this guy. There's no way you can watch the tape on this guy and not be a fan. Deadly knees. He has quite a few finishes due to knees. Throws a lot of spinning and jumping attacks. Fights well from both stances. But this fight will come down to how good his opponent's wrestling is. And Joelton Lutterbach is 31 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He is 38-10, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a plus 185 underdog. Obviously, way more experience. 14 wins by knockout, 13 wins by submission. Obviously, the more well-rounded fighter here. He's got a lot of experience outside of MMA and other combat sports. He did lose to Dricus du Plessis and KSW. Lost both his fights in the PFL, and since then he's been doing a lot of kickboxing, boxing and karate fights. He's competed all over the world. Competed in Cage Warriors, Brave FC, Glory, Karate Combat. He's gonna have a 1-inch reach advantage. Seems to fancy himself a striker. Not a good idea in this fight. He's gonna want to use his wrestling. And even though he's a pretty good striker, lots of high level experience, I still think Magomedov's got the edge, in the striking. This guy will probably have some success in the UFC at some point. He does throw great kicks. He also has really good at catching the kicks and sweeping the legs. He's got a lot of early finishes on his record. Did seem to slow down a bit in a few of his fights that I watched and get tired, especially when it was a grapple heavy approach. Um, he was competing at lightweight in the PFL, so I expect him to be the smaller guy in this fight by a lot. He did show some decent takedowns in the PFL, which kind of tempts me to pick him here. He has the advantage, with his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. I mean, how much can Magomedov's takedown defense improve in 7 months? I'm going to pick Magomedov to win by knockout, but won't get heavily invested. And we'll probably, if I do end up making an underdog parlay, I might put Lutterbach in it, just because he does have decent wrestling and Magomedov has shitty takedown defense. Magomedov's a superior striker, so I'm thinking he lands a big shot at some point, but, you never know what could happen, especially with a guy who we haven't seen compete in the UFC yet. Next up, we got Muhammad Naimov taking on Baghdasaryan. And Naimov is 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. He's 11-2 and 3-0 in the UFC, and he's a plus 100 underdog. 5 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Never been finished. Has some legit wins so far in the UFC. His biggest advantage in this fight is going to be his wrestling, and he's going to have to use it if he wants to win. He does hit very hard, but Melsic's a talented kickboxer. Naimov has showed good wrestling in the Nathaniel Wood fight. He's very strong with his body lock, throws good spin kicks, uses good inside trips, great ground and pound. Can be pretty wild, brawler type style with his striking. Likes to go out there and bully his opponents, and he does fight well in the clinch. This is a close fight. Naimov is the underdog, but he's heavily favored on Tapology, and I could see this fight going either way. If he can't get the takedowns, it could be a long night for him, though. He has good counters. That's how he was able to knock out Jamie Malarkey in his debut, up a weight class. This may be one of those that when it comes time to the event, whoever the underdog is who I end up going with. Naimov shows 46% striking accuracy with 41% striking defense. 33% takedown accuracy with 58% takedown defense. Averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 3.33 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.57. He's taking on Baghdasaryan. He is 32 years old. He is 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. He is 8-2 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 120 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. Both his losses have been by submission. He's a sniper, very good kickboxer. His weakness is definitely submission defense. He was looking very sharp against Kulibal, who was a great striker, and Melsik was tearing him up on the feet. But as soon as it hit the ground, Kulibal got the sub. Melsik throws nice, accurate strikes, doesn't throw a ton of volume, but when he throws, he usually lands. He throws good spin kicks very smoothly. He even throws axe kicks and question mark kicks. He's very technical. He has perfect technique in all of his strikes. Throws nice straight shots. Very fast, good at using his feints to set up his strikes. And while he has looked good, his wins in the UFC have been over guys that didn't make it in the UFC so far. He does throw great front kicks to the liver. He was doing a good job at pushing the head down, so his opponents couldn't quite get him all the way down to the ground. But it kind of resulted in a stalemate. A lot of the last fight. But you could tell he's worked a lot, on his takedown defense, and it's his fight all day on the feet. But if Naimov, does what he does and makes it a dirty, sloppy kind of fight, and get him in the clinch and get the body lock, he could take him down. Melsik shows 61% striking accuracy with 58% striking defense. Never landed a takedown in the UFC. 73% takedown defense, and he lands on average 5.28 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.06. And like I said, I may go with whoever the dog is closer to the fight. Right now, Naimov is the dog, and that's who I was originally, planning on going with anyway when I looked at this fight. It's hard because Melsik's striking is so good, way better than Naimov. But, it's been a while since, it's been almost a year since we saw, Baghdasaryan, so he could have worked on his takedown defense quite a bit. But I'm going to go with Naimov for now. I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision. Take the plus money. Next up, we got Kevin Gastelum taking on Daniel Rodriguez. And Kevin Gastelum is 32 years old. He is 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. He is 18-9 and 12-9 in the UFC, and he's a minus 220 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. Never been knocked out, but does have 3 losses by submission. And he looked terrible in his return to 170 pounds, and honestly, he's 2-6 in his last 8 fights. But he has been fighting all the guys at the top of the division at 185. So he does have good boxing, great footwork. He's very fast, lands a lot of volume. He's gonna have a speed advantage in this fight. And I used to think he might have had good wrestling, but we saw last time that he doesn't. Sean Brady was able to just throw him around, ragdoll him, and easily beat him. Um, so obviously he has terrible takedown defense, and he's not that good of takedown defense. Lucky for him, D-Rod doesn't even ever wrestle like that. He just boxes mainly. So I don't know if I agree that Kevin should be this big of a favorite, but he has fought the tougher competition, and he has the better wins on his record. He's been around forever, man, and he's actually way younger than Rodriguez at this point. So he's taking on Daniel Rodriguez. He is 37 years old. He is 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He is 17-4 and 7-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 185 underdog. 8 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission, and up until his last 2 fights, he had never been finished. Has great, basics with his boxing, good power in his hands. I would kind of rather see him win this fight, but honestly, I think Kevin is better everywhere, and I wouldn't get heavily invested after the way Kelvin looked in his last fight. Um, Daniel's going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage, but I'm going with Kelvin to win this by decision with his speed and his volume. But yeah, if he loses this fight, I'm done with him. So next up, we got Johnny Walker taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Grab some water real quick. Johnny Walker is 32 years old. He is 6'6" with an 82-inch reach. He is 21-8 and 7-5 in the UFC, and he's a minus 150 favorite. And I think it's crazy these guys haven't fought before already. Walker has 16 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. He's been knocked out 5 times, 7-inch reach advantage. He just hasn't really seemed to be the same to me as he was when he first came to the UFC, and that's probably because he's got to fight safer after being knocked out so many times. But he doesn't take as many risks, and that's how he was able to get all those crazy knockouts before. He does have really good chokes. He's got long arms. Originally, I was thinking Walker wins this fight, but what gave me second thoughts is the fact that Walker got his ass kicked twice by Magomedov and or Ankalaev, sorry. And Oezdemir actually had a competitive fight with him, decently competitive fight. So I also, don't think Walker's last 3 wins are all that impressive. I mean, beating Anthony Smith at this point in his career, I don't know if that's really all that great anymore. And other than that was Paul Craig and Ion Cutelaba. Most guys have choked out Ion Cutelaba whenever they fight because he always sticks his head in the chokes. But at least Oezdemir has a win over Ratchik, recently in his fight on his record. So could be a close fight though. And Volkan Oezdemir is 34 years old. He is 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. He is 19-7 and 7-6 in the UFC, and he's a plus 115 underdog. 12 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. Last time out, he looked, better than ever. And at first, I thought, okay, Guskov just sucks, so no big deal. It's not really Oezdemir, but Guskov has gone on to look good in his next 2 fights, really good. So, which does make, what Oezdemir did a lot more impressive. And, Oezdemir, he showed a lot of improvements in that fight with his wrestling, his grappling, his submissions. He has great kickboxing. And outside of all those crazy attacks that Walker throws, I think Oezdemir has the better, more technical striking. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to take Walker down as well. Not super confident in this pick, but I am going to be taking the underdog and Oezdemir to win this fight by knockout, round 2. Looking at Ozdemir's record, I mean, he lost to Krylov. Krylov's actually a really good fighter. Beat Paul Craig, lost to Ankalaev, lost to Yuri, beat, Alexander Ratchik, which is a good win. Knocked out Lear Latifi. He's only lost to like really tough guys. Anthony Smith. He did lose to Anthony Smith. Man, wow. Dominic Reyes. Daniel Cormier. But I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. And I'm gonna take him to win, man. I'm probably gonna. And I ended up putting a little underdog play on him. Next up, we got Sergey Pavlovich taking on Alexander Volkov. And Pavlovich is 32 years old. He is 6'3" with an 84-inch reach. He is 18-2 and 6-2 in the UFC, and he's a minus 200 favorite. 15 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. Huge power, good boxing. Most of his wins have been first round finishes, so it kind of makes you wonder about the cardio. He's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage, even though he's shorter. He's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage, and the rumors are that these two used to spar, and Sergey would always get the best of Volkov. No doubt he has a power advantage. Me personally, I would rather see Volkov win this fight. Um, and I honestly don't think outside of his power that Sergey has a lot of the skills that Volkov has. Um, but we don't know how good his takedown defense is either because Blades waited until he was out on his feet to shoot a takedown on Pavlovich. But that being said, Volkov isn't really known as a good wrestler either. But um, most of the skills are going to be on the side of Volkov. But the power is just so huge coming from Pavlovich that if he lands one shot. Um, but Alexander Volkov is 35 years old. He is 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. He is 37-10 and 11-4 in the UFC. He's a plus 165 underdog. 24 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. He's more well-rounded. Like I said, I think he has the better skills overall. He's the more technical in the striking, but none of that matters if he gets caught. So he throws the better kicks. He throws a wider variety of strikes. The longer the fight goes, the more it benefits Volkov. He probably does have the advantage on the ground, but I don't know if his wrestling would be good enough to get Sergey down. Uh, Volkov has been in there with a lot of heavy hitters, and he's came out on top. Everyone is going with Pavlovich here, and I understand why. He's a monster. And as far as picking a winner, I'm going to pick Pavlovich to win by knockout. But like I said, that reverse parlay I've been talking about might have Volkov on it with a couple other people. Um, just in case, man. And I'll be watching the live betting on this fight as well, trying to get a shot on Volkov. Uh, you know, maybe he can outlast Pavlovich and take over in the last 2 rounds. It'd be cool if it was a 5-round fight. Next up, we got the main event: Robert Whittaker taking on Khamzat Chimaev. It's pretty much split down the middle on Tapology as who's going with who. Um, so Robert Whittaker is 33 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 73.5-inch reach. He is 25-7 and 16-5 in the UFC. He's a plus 210 underdog. 9 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. Rob has always been at the top of the division. He's a great striker, karate type style, kickboxing. Really, really likes to blitz in and land combinations, and he's very good at staying out of the way of the big shots and countering. And this being a 5-round fight, and all the 5-round experience that Rob has had, really, it all benefits him for sure. Because honestly, Chimaev fought a welterweight last time out and didn't really look all that good in the second half of the fight. Rob has the better striking, no doubt. But in my opinion, I think if he can survive, the first round or two, I think he can take over late in the fight and win this fight. If it gets there, Chimaev is skipping over a lot of people here to be fighting Rob because Chimaev hasn't fought anybody in the top 10 at middleweight, at all. So big jump up in competition here. And Chimaev is 30 years old. He is 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. He is 13-0 and 7-0 in the UFC. He's a minus 260 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. Hasn't been very active. He does have a power advantage on the feet, and he has the advantages on the ground. But if he doesn't get the early submission or knockout, can he keep that crazy pace for 5 rounds is something that I doubt. He's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. I could see this fight going either way. I don't agree with Chimaev being this big of a favorite. If the price was more like a minus 150, I would probably have been more keen to take him on this fight. But since he hasn't fought anyone in the top 10 in the middleweight yet, I think I'm going to take the value and keep my fingers crossed that Rob upsets the world and enemy territory here. And for me, as far as betting, I think it's either going to be like, Khamzat by submission or Rob by decision. But I'm going to pick Robert Whittaker to win. I'm not going to have anything really wrapped up in this fight. I'll have it on the very end of my parlays for the value. Not super confident, but I like Rob's odds here. I think he's got the better cardio. I think he can, turn it up in the last 3 rounds of the fight and possibly win. So that's it as far as my picks, guys. As far as my bets go, pull this up. So As far as bets go, I've got a 2-fight parlay. All the plays here are plus money plays. Barat, Farid Basharat and Nasrat Haqparast, 2-fight parlay. That's plus 130. That's a 1-unit play. And then I got a 2-fight parlay that's Kang and Muhammad Gadzhiyasulov. That's a plus 143. It's a quarter-unit play. I have a small play on Abu azaitar against Dennis tiuliulan. It's a plus 110. It's a quarter-unit play. And then a really small play on oezdemir. It's $100 at plus 120. And as far as parlays go, I've got four-fight parlay that's Gadzhiyasulov, Kang, basharat, and haqparast. That's plus 446. And then to that, I added azaitar and gastelum. That's a plus 15, plus 1,516. Confusing myself with all these numbers. And then to that, which one was next? And then to that, I added Naimov, Oezdemir, and Fakhretdinov. And that's a plus 9,291. That's Gadzhiyasulov, Kang, basharat, azaitar, Naimov, haqparast, fakhretdinov, gastelum, and Oezdemir. And then at the very end of these, I added Whittaker to those, which is a 10-fight parlay, and that's plus 29,014. Wouldn't it be nice if that one hit? Which, like I said, y'all know that I only put like this big parlay here. I only got like $20 on it. As the more people that are on the parlay, the less money I put on them. So, but I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much for being here and for caring what I have to say. You guys are awesome, and good luck, guys. I hope you win some money. I'm out of here.